Michael Williams from Chicago spent about a year in jail. He was accused of murder, and the main evidence comes from an AI-powered gunshot detection system called ShotSpotter. But in this case, it got it wrong. The system misinterpreted the data, leading to Williams' imprisonment. Thankfully, a judge dismissed the case due to insufficient evidence. In a separate incident, Air Canada faced legal trouble when its AI-powered chatbot provided incorrect information regarding special travel discounts. When the customer sued Air Canada, the company attempted to shift the blame onto the chatbot, claiming it was the one responsible for the mistake. Well, the court rejected this argument and held the airline accountable for the misinformation. And in Taiwan, a 62-year-old woman was tricked using AI to impersonate superstar Andy Lau. They even created realistic video calls that convinced her she was really talking to the guy. They manipulated her into transferring over $81,000 for a supposed visit to Taiwan. Luckily, the scam was uncovered by her family at the right time, and it turned out that AI was used to deepfaking the actor's voice and appearance. Well, these events are real, and they have happened in just the last few months, and they are reminders of the damaging effects of AI when it goes wrong. They are also reminders of the urgent need for responsible AI development and use. So what do we mean by responsible AI, and why is it so critical in today's rapidly evolving technological landscape? Stay tuned, because today we're looking into that. I'm Hamid Nash, and welcome to a new episode of eKompass. AI is everywhere these days, and it transforms our world at a remarkable speed. From smartphones in our pockets to algorithms driving major industries, transportation, finance, education, energy, you name it. But as AI becomes more powerful, we need to make sure it's working for us as humans, not against us. And this is where responsible AI comes in. It's an approach to developing and using AI in a way that is aligned with fundamental human principles and values, like fairness, transparency, and so on. To start with, let's keep in mind that the concept didn't appear overnight. Back in 1942, science fiction author Isaac Asimov introduced his famous 3 laws of robotics in a short story. These laws were all about making sure robots wouldn't harm humans. While this was pure fiction, at least the story helped start conversations about AI ethics. So later on, in the 50s, philosophers and scientists like Alan Turing started raising questions about machine intelligence, morality, and even consciousness. In the 60s and up to the 80s, computer ethics as a field of study has emerged. Pioneers like Norbert Wiener and Joseph Weizenbaugh were among the first to explore how computers might affect society. Weizenbaugh, for example, strongly warned against relying too heavily on machines, especially for tasks requiring empathy and moral judgment. In the 1990s and early 2000s, conversations about AI became more practical. AI was expanding into areas like healthcare, transportation, and military. This led scholars to create guidelines for using AI responsibly. But it wasn't until the 2010 that responsible AI really took the center stage, because that's when AI started to have tangible impact on our daily lives. Suddenly, we were not just talking about theoretical scenarios, we were dealing with real-world consequences. So today, AI ethics is a big topic of discussion around the world. The conversations now covers a wide range of issues like data privacy, explaining how AI makes decisions, surveillance, how AI affects jobs, and so on. Let's not forget generative AI, which adds new questions about creativity, misinformation, and how to responsibly use AI-generated content. There's also growing talk about how regulations and rules can guide the use of these technologies. So as AI raised ethical questions, organizations began developing ethics frameworks. The Asilomar AI principles were among the first widely recognized set of AI ethics guidelines. Soon after, in 2018, the Declaration of Montreal for Responsible AI was introduced. This declaration called for AI to be developed in a way that benefits all people. In 2019, the IEEE released the Ethically Aligned Design. This also emphasized the importance of human rights and well-being in AI development. International bodies became involved as well. For example, the European Commission released the Ethics Guidelines for Trustworthy AI. In November 2021, UNESCO produced the first ever global standard on AI ethics, the Recommendation of the Ethics of Artificial Intelligence, which applies to all the 184 member states. Major tech companies also publish AI ethic guidelines, such as Google's AI Principle and Microsoft's Responsible AI. Many countries also propose legal frameworks like the AI and Data Act in Canada, or the AI Act of the European Commission, or else the AI law in Brazil, and so on. There are definitely many more frameworks, and each one has its own flavor. However, they all boil down to a set of key principles. For example, fairness and non-discrimination, meaning that AI should treat everyone equally, regardless of race, age, gender, or social or economic background. To give an example, a 2020 report highlighted that the UK government's passport photo checker was less accurate for people with darker skin tones, particularly women, who were more likely to have their photo rejected by the system. Another example comes from the medical care, as an AI algorithm used to assess kidney function was found to delay transplants for Black patients by placing them in less severe categories compared to white patients. Another key principle is transparency and explainability, which means that as humans, we should understand how AI come up with their answers and decisions instead of just hoping that they work. For example, back in 2020, students in the UK protested against an algorithm used to predict their final grades after exams were cancelled due to the COVID-19. But nobody really knew how this computer brain was deciding who got what grade. As you can imagine, this didn't go well and officials had to abandon AI results. There are also the privacy and data protection principles, which means that, as a name suggests, AI must respect and protect personal data. A recent example involves OpenAI apps running on Mac computer. In July 2024, it was revealed that the app stored users' conversation in plain text on their stations, making it easy for anyone with access to the machine to read these conversations. Well, OpenAI has since updated the app to encrypt local chats. At least the case highlights the importance of adhering to privacy and data protection principle. And it's not just about conversations. A court in Sao Paulo recently suspended the use of facial recognition in the metro system, as there were privacy concerns and a lack of transparency. The ruling revealed a key problem. The companies in charge were collecting people's biometric data without consent and weren't even taking basic safety steps to prevent things like data leaks. There's also this idea of accountability and responsibility when it comes to AI. Basically, it means that someone, somewhere, should be responsible for the AI decisions and actions. To give you an example, Cruise, which is a self-driving car company, just settled with a pedestrian who was dragged by one of their robot taxis. The company had millions to the victim, so this case shows how organization can be held responsible when AI goes wrong. Human oversight is another important principle of responsible AI. It basically means that while AI can make decisions, humans should always have the final say in critical situations. Take this wild example. A California software developer was accidentally fired by an AI system when his manager forgot to renew his contract in the computer. Despite his manager knowing it was a mistake, they couldn't stop the automated process. The employee was locked out of systems and even escorted out by security. So this shows why it's important to have human oversight of AI systems, especially for important decisions that affect people's livelihoods. Finally, there's this principle of social good, which means that AI should be designed to benefit people in society and not harm them. It sounds obvious, but sometimes AI can go off track. For example, a chatbot intended to provide health advice ended up giving harmful weight loss tips to people with eating disorders, leading to its immediate shutdown. And it doesn't stop there. Just look at this deepfake technology. Deepfake, which became the new playground for cybercrime. A striking example comes from Hong Kong, where a finance worker was scammed into transferring 25 million to fraudsters using deepfake technology. The scammers used AI to recreate the company's CFO. Convinced that everything was legitimate, the worker approved the transaction. So these cases show how AI can be used to trick people and cause serious harm. So one might ask, with all these frameworks and principles, and there are so many, why we still have ethical problems with AI? Well, part of the issue is how these frameworks are presented. Most of them are presented in the form of lists, which can be confusing as they lack actionable solutions. Martin and his colleagues in a report edited by Ovia refers to them as grocery lists. It may be wild, but you get the point. There is still a gap between a generic principle like fairness and how actually it should be put into the system by a developer or manager. There's more. How are we supposed to interpret these principles? Malak and Sadek and her colleagues state that, for example, while fairness is a universal principle, it may still mean different things to different people, which may lead to conflicting interpretations. What's more, AI is evolving incredibly fast. It even outpaces our ability to develop ethical frameworks and regulations that are grounded in practice. So this creates a constant game of catch-up. And let's be real, implementing ethical AI takes time and resources. In a competitive market, it can be tempting for managers to focus on speed and success rather than ethical concerns. Sometimes these ethical principles even clash with each other. For example, increasing AI systems transparency might compromise its ability to protect user privacy. Plus, there aren't yet clear metrics for what could be part of an ethics dashboard. For example, Hagendorf notes that it's tough to measure inclusivity or know where it's truly achieved. So while these frameworks and guidelines are important, they're really just the first step. And thankfully, there are already efforts underway to move beyond just lists of principles toward more practical solutions. For example, organizations, universities, and governments are working to turn ethical principles into practical solutions, as we said. We're seeing this play out in different ways as governments, for example, create new policies, universities doing research and train the next generation about AI ethics, and companies set up clear guidelines for their AI systems. What's especially encouraging is how different groups, from researchers to tech companies or nonprofits, are working together to tackle these challenges. But perhaps the most important development is the growing public awareness and engagement with AI ethics issues. So this brings us to an important point. Responsible AI isn't just about tech companies or governments. It's about all of us. As users and consumers of AI, we have a role to play. We can educate ourselves about AI potential benefits and risks. We can also participate in public discussions about AI regulations and policies. So, looking ahead, I believe that the future of AI will be shaped by how well we balance innovation with responsibility. And we've seen through this discussion that technology is powerful, but it needs to be guided by human values and wisdom. Only then we can ensure that AI truly serves its intended purpose, making our lives better while protecting the fundamental rights and dignity of all people. This is Hamid Nash, and see you in the next episode of eKompass.